I am in blood, stepped in so far, that should I wade no more, returning were as tedious as going o'er. A creak in the floorboard, a pattering of footsteps, something lives within these walls. A pair of troubled sisters return home from a hospital after a traumatic incident has left them shaken. At the door to greet them is their wicked stepmother. During the day, a family's past and turmoil is silenced by a cruel stepmother, a taciturn father, and a pair of sisters paralyzed with fear. But at night, the house whispers secrets. This is It Records. Welcome everybody to your favorite horror movie podcast. That's right, you are listening to It Records. I'm one of your hosts, Matt Johnson, and I am joined by the other hosts of the podcast. You know, I'm Peter and Lindsay. Pete and Lindsay.
Are you practicing your radio personality or something?
Yeah, that's my DJ. That's my radio DJ. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. Would you listen to me?
No.
If I was on
That was
air?
honest.
Nope.
I don't even listen. Don't even listen to the podcast. I know, I'm kidding.
Well, that's fair. That's faar. That's all I've ever asked of you is honesty, so I appreciate that, Pete. This week on the podcast, we watched the 2003 South Korean horror film, A Tale of Two Sisters. And it was directed by Kim Ji-woon. And I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly.
We usually always get it wrong.
Yeah. Or I just mix up people entirely with the wrong person, like James Wan.
That's true. We did get confused between like 3 or 4 different directors in one episode.
Mm-hmm. That's true. But A Tale of Two Sisters. I chose the film this week, and I've been really wanting to do this one for a long time. I think, Pete, if I can remember correctly, when we first started the podcast, the first 5 episodes or so, we wanted to do a foreign film. And I think I mentioned this movie, but it's very difficult to find, like online or on, at the time at least, to find a viewing apparatus for it.
It's still very difficult to find.
I bought the movie for this episode. I bought it off Amazon.
I had to do a free trial of Shudder to watch this movie, which has ended now.
I own Shudder. I don't have stocks, but I have.
Whoa.
I have the subscription for a year. Yeah.
Basically the same
Basically
thing.
the same. You get a board seat, right?
Yeah.
If you...
I get the select movies that I want to be on there. That actually would be pretty sweet to be a part of that. I would be like, yeah, you gotta have that on there. Not that one.
Yeah. Side tangent. I could edit this from the podcast later, but do you guys ever remember, I think it was called like Splat or something, that was online in like early 2015 that was old Nickelodeon shows from like the 90s to the early 2000s?
What?
Okay, it was the greatest thing that ever happened to the internet. What it was is you went to the
What
site.
do you mean was?
There was a legal battle. Okay, we can maybe keep this in the podcast, but what happened was you go to the site and all it was like a TV screen, kind of taking up the left side of your screen, and the right was comments. It was people talking and chatting. You would create a name and you could talk to people while an episode was on. The cool thing was you couldn't change the channel. It was always that show, and it showed the old commercials that were on during like the actual show. And how the show, you could see the lineup of what was going to be on next, like the next 3 shows. But the way the shows were chosen is people who were online would vote on episodes and shows based on who was watching, and whatever got the highest would then be in the lineup next. It was amazing for the time period that it did exist.
Damn.
You are rocking
There's
my
something
world
actually
right now.
very similar that I'm afraid to mention, but there's something completely the same, just for Cartoon Network, but a specific block which was called Toonami, which was just played anime that I loved after school. 2-hour block of, and they called it Toonami Aftermath because it ended. Now it's back, but at the time it was gone. and then you could just watch all these old anime, and it'd be like people could comment and shit, but like it would just like I don't remember them having commercials because I only watched because I wanted to choose like what I wanted to watch, so I like didn't watch it that much. And now it's back at midnight, like regular Toonami, on Saturdays. Saturdays only for some reason.
Yeah.
Huh. That's cool. The Nickelodeon one got taken off the internet because it wasn't Nickelodeon doing it. It was somebody who had like ripped all the old.
Well, that's why I think the Toonami one is too. I think it's like I think they just didn't get caught, which is why I didn't want to say it. Don't want to ruin it. Don't want to ruin it for people.
I can edit this all out for the sake of Toonami.
I think you should keep it because I think people should. They need to know.
Yeah.
I need to know.
I think the 6 people that are going to listen to the episode are not going to rat us out.
I mean, yeah, it's fine.
We're not like a super top charting podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not Comedy Bang Bang or something. Yet.
we gotta get that Cards Against Humanity money first.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
By just telling us not to play ads and give us ad money anyways.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Or we could just like start advertising for companies in a negative light, maybe, and then like they'll pick us up like, hey, these people are saying bad stuff about us, and then we can like, we'll say good stuff. We'll just draw them to the podcast.
That sounds like a recipe for success.
That doesn't sound like there could be any legal trouble to that.
No, not at all. File that away.
It'd just be like, this one person who's got 6 followers is talking shit about you. Like, they could have that.
Yeah, they're good. That's probably more realistic.
Let them have something.
Okay, so horror movies though. Tale of Two Sisters for this week. As we were saying, it's pretty hard to find it really anywhere. I ended up buying it, and I wanted to to push for this one to watch it. But for those of you who haven't really heard of it at all, it's a psychological horror film. It came out in 2003. It's based off a famous Korean folklore. I can't pronounce the actual Korean name, but it translates to Rose Flower Red Lotus. And the storyline is 2 sisters who, after spending some time in a mental institution, return to their home of their father and cruel stepmother. And once there, in addition to dealing with their stepmother's obsessive and unbalanced ways, an interfering ghost affects their recovery. So that's the basis, I guess, the very basic aspect of the movie. So I have a few horror significant aspects I'll talk about, but most of them deal with, as we'll talk about, the plot. But the first one I'd like to bring up, just to get you guys engaged with it, is what subgenre of horror would you think this movie falls into? I know it's a foreign film, but what sort of area of horror does it fall?
Well, I guess by saying that, it was like kind of a spoiler because I actually had no idea what this movie was. I just I got it confused with another Korean horror film that I've seen, and I thought it was like Thirst was the one I got it confused with. Have you seen that one?
I have not seen Thirst, no.
Thirst is good. It's about vampires, so that's what I was expecting. And then once the first plot point hit at like 30 minutes, I was like, oh, that's what this movie is about. I was not aware of this.
Yeah. Then, so it's not a vampire subgenre, but where do you think this movie would fall?
Ghost.
Ghost? Oh, yeah. No. Yeah. Or like
haunted
ghost
house.
In like yeah, and I was thinking about that. I don't know how to differentiate between ghost and haunted house. They can be their own separate subgenre.
Yeah, I would say it's more ghost than haunted house.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, literally in my description I said the word ghost and not haunted house, so it's kind of a giveaway.
And it's like it's not about the house either. Like, the hauntings are not because of the house; it's because of other reasons.
It just happens to be the setting.
That's true.
I guess what happens in that house leading to other events that take place, so I don't know. I think it's definitely got thriller and mystery elements to it as well.
What's it billed as?
Yeah.
Horror psychological drama is what is in like the tag for what the movie is from the movie's website and the Wikipedia page. Which, looking into Korean horror, it's very similar to Japanese horror, I'd say. But they focus on like suffering and the anguish of characters rather than like the blood and guts that maybe American films are more familiar with.
I would say Korean films, from what I've seen of the horror genre, are more intense than the ones I've seen from Japan, or even anywhere that's like in the Asia area, where because the ones I've seen are like super intense, and I feel like that's kind of makes like Korea has got like kind of like an, even though they're a small country, they have a very like hard hitting outreach genre.
Mm-hmm. And when you say intense, do you mean like violence wise or just like?
Yes and no. It kind of depends on the movie. Like,
okay.
Old Boy is an example. That's something that is really intense.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's like movies that are, this is intense in a different way, where like you said, it's more psychologically intense because it is.
Yeah, it deals a lot with like guilt, definitely guilt and like remorse, which is really any ghost story movie. Is the idea of something happened in the past that's haunting you, and we as the audience don't know it when the movie starts, but our characters have some idea.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Is this the first Korean horror film you've seen, Lindsay?
Probably. That's all I
was just curious to see what you're familiar with, like if you like. Old Boy could kind of slide in there, but the like more obvious ones are like The Host, which I think is like is pretty popular, and there's like Mother, and there's a couple Thirst, like I said earlier.
Yeah, I looked this up. Oh wait, here's Red Eye was, I think, originally a Korean film.
Oh really?
The one that was remade. Like the
with Rachel McAdams and dude. Okay.
Yeah.
Cillian Murphy, whatever.
Let's see. I got a whole list here actually. I Saw the Devil, which is also directed by the same guy.
Oh yeah,
who did this film. So the same director for this film. Those are the ones that I think jump out to me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we kind of mentioned the most popular ones, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Definitely.
Was Old Boy ever remade in the
yes,
U.S.?
It was.
Okay.
Yeah. I did not bother watching it.
Was
it was directed by... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask if that was... Who was that directed by?
Spike Lee, I'm 90% sure.
That's what I was
Spike
thinking.
Lee, which was really random.
That was my thought on it, too. I believe Josh Brolin is the lead actor.
He is.
Okay. That's what I thought.
I did not see it.
I haven't seen the U.S. version either.
No interest.
Well, I mean, since we're talking of, like, Korean remakes, before we even get into this movie, there is an American remake of this movie that came out that people might be familiar with.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of ironic in the sense that, well, the movie, the American, is called The Uninvited. So you probably heard of that one. It came out around the same time as this movie did in Korea.
I thought that one was a remake of a 1940... Because there's a 1940s movie called The Uninvited, and that's a ghost movie. and I thought that's what the remake was.
After doing some research, it's a remake of this one. The what's it called? The American version. It's a remake of this one.
Okay.
And then there is that original one, like the 40s, but then to add another layer of like irony on top of it, the original actor that the director wanted to play in this film turned it down because she thought it was too scary or something, and she ended up playing in the horror film in Korea called The Uninvited. But it's not related to this movie, but it's also called The Uninvited, which is the American name for the remake of this movie.
That's not confusing at all.
Right? No, not even a little bit. I guess
we could jump into the movie now.
Yeah, we've talked quite a bit about Korean horror. But yeah, we can talk about the movie. Well, it starts out with... I don't even want to try to butcher the names because I know I'm not gonna say them. But our main sister there's two sisters clearly from the title, but there's a main sister. I believe it's like Soon Mi or Soon Mu is our main protagonist, and her sister's Soon.
Yeah, that's the best we're gonna get it.
What?
That's the best we're gonna get it.
Yeah, that's as close as we're gonna get. But they come back from a mental institution where something happened, and they don't really say, but they're coming back to their house to live with the stepmother and their father, who's very quiet, doesn't really say much at all. Kind of annoyed me throughout this film.
Especially with like very like you could see it in the get-go that the stepmom is very off. Like when you see the two sisters interact, like they're kind of just like hanging out by the beach or whatever. They like live in the countryside, and then like the stepmom is just fires away like 10 questions in a row at them. I'm like, wow, she's a little crazy. She's like, I don't even remember what she says, but she asks them way too many questions. And then she's like, oh yeah, your aunt or uncle are coming, and then pisses them off.
Yeah.
For some reason. I didn't get that part. I got confused quite a bit in this movie.
Oh, good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then what didn't help is that I watched this like solely on my laptop in the same room where my girlfriend was watching TV, and I got really distracted. And then, like, obviously, you miss a lot because you got to read the subtitles, and then I'm like, holy shit, what's going on? And then I was like, man, this Keeping Up with the Kardashians is really interesting right now. That's what was playing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, to a movie that's already pretty confusing, that just sounds like a smorgasbord for, I don't know, that just sounds confusing.
Yeah.
And unfortunate.
Yeah, it is a confusing movie just in and of itself, let alone it is in a different language where we have to pay attention to the subtitles the whole time if you want to understand what the dialogue is.
Yeah, so the fact that it was already confusing and me being very easily distracted by the Kardashians did not help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's confusing for the listener if you haven't seen it because it's a ghost story, as we said, and as we were watching, like, you can clearly tell something's off between them, like between everybody in the house.
Yes.
But we don't really know what's going on, and then you start to see some images or like some flashbacks and possibly a ghost, and you're just trying to piece it all together of like what's going on. So you're trying to solve a mystery in a different language, so you can get lost pretty quick if you're not paying attention.
That happened to me real fast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we meet the stepmother. She's inviting the aunt and uncle over for dinner. Clearly, these kids don't like her. We don't know what happened to the mother at this point, right? Or
I don't think so.
No.
We don't.
Like, they just barely talk about it. They, like, refuse to bring it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember wondering, like, if the mother was still around in some way or if she had passed away, so I don't think that was clear yet at this point.
Yeah, I think, because what happens next before the dinner is they try to go to sleep, and that's the first time that we see some sort of like ghost or spirit in the house.
Yeah.
With Soo Yun, one of the sisters, not the main sister that we were following from the beginning.
Did she also go to a mental hospital?
That's what I found confusing.
Um,
Well, one thing I found confusing.
Without going into spoilers, I could explain that for you, but I'd have to like say full spoilers if anybody wants us to go chronologically through this. It might be easier if I explain it for us to continue discussion, maybe.
I mean, I know, like... I know, obviously, how the movie ends.
Sure.
Because I read the Wikipedia page after watching it, because I was like, wait, what just happened?
Same.
Uh-huh.
And then I was like, oh, okay. But for sake of chronological order and story, how would you answer that?
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, she was at the mental institution.
Okay.
Yeah, they both were there because of some event, but we don't know what. And they're coming back, and the stepmother's really badgering them. And one of the sisters sees some ghost. At least that's what we are perceived to think. There's some older lady with like a crooked neck who like approaches one of the sisters while she's like laying in her bed.
Yeah, that was creepy. That was a creepy scene.
It was, because it starts off with like the door opening and you don't see anything, and then it like cuts to her on the floor and it like holds the camera, where I'm like used to it like here's the jump scare or whatever, or like it's gonna cut away, but it like held on that person on the floor for a while and then like watch them turn and look at her and then slowly rise. And that was really creepy for me.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this is very alarming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to follow what happens next.
I would say soon after that was the dinner with the uncle and aunt. Is that right?
I think what happens right before that is, right before that is our main sister Soon Mi. Ugh, I'm gonna get butchered for all these pronunciations.
Just say sister with long hair, sister with short hair.
Okay, that's good. Sister
That
with
works.
long hair is who I'm talking about. She finds a stack of photos somewhere, I think in her father's bedroom, that show her dad with her mother and the stepmother, and we kind of learned that the mother was ill through these photos, and the nurse was the stepmother.
Yes.
And then we kind of learned that the mother's gone and the stepmother's there through those photos, I think. And it upsets long-haired sister looking at those photos.
Yeah, because it seemed like she didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, she didn't know that the stepmother was her mother's like nurse, right?
That's what I thought.
I guess so. Yeah.
Okay.
Because why else would she be upset?
Which is
about
how.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and that led to her father's affair with her stepmother. Yes.
That's how I took it, because she's like upset with her dad as well. So I took it like the mother was still alive when he started having the affair with the nurse, and her mother was sick, so she is upset with the father.
Yeah, there's definitely a strained relationship there because of that. I think.
Especially like you said earlier, where he's just not talking at all. Like in the movie, he's a very quiet man.
Yeah, he is. Especially that dinner sequence, which I believe is the next scene, and the aunt and the uncle are over, and I feel like he says nothing, and the stepmother goes on about this crazy story for a while that like.
Yeah, that was really awkward.
Yeah. I don't even remember the story. Did either of you remember the story? Something about a tractor, right?
I don't remember them talking about a tractor, but I remember her just going on and on about the crazy guy in their neighborhood that would take their clothes off when it rained. And then one day, I guess her brother, right? I'm assuming that's her brother, the uncle, did this one day with the crazy guy, and she's just laughing and no one else is reacting at all. And you're just like, I was like, oh man, this is really awkward. And then the brother's just like, no, I don't remember that. And then his wife just fucking has a crazy ass seizure out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So
that's right.
I don't know if the house caused this or she's just an epileptic. I don't know. They did have pills. So I was confused, and then she saw something, obviously, because she was like staring into the kitchen for a very long time. I was really freaked out, and she seemed like she saw a ghost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both, where she is epileptic, but it was kind of the house that induced a seizure. We're supposed to, I think, infer, because she does see the ghost that's under the sink in the kitchen, which kind of triggered it.
Yeah. I thought she was being attacked by a ghost at first. I thought because she was like grabbing her neck, and I thought like the ghost was like choking her or something.
Could have been. I mean,
I guess there's nothing to tell me that the ghost didn't do that.
Yeah, true. And then they book it out of there. They head on out.
I mean, she made a hell of a scene.
Mm-hmm.
And I would want to leave too. Like, yeah, I just had a seizure, so I'm just gonna go home.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, it's yeah.
I'm just not that hungry anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you should probably go rest or something. But then also the stepmother sees the ghost in that same scene, or grabs at her. I think grabs at her ankle, maybe from underneath the sink.
Yeah, it does grab at her.
Yeah. Okay. So that's at least 2 ghosts at this point that we've seen. And the next bit of significant plot line, I think, is the bird's death. The stepmother has the 2 birds.
Mm-hmm.
And she finds one dead in the cage, right? And the other dead in short-haired sister's bed.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And short-haired sister denies having done it. She didn't do it. And then is proceeded to be locked up in a wardrobe.
Yeah, which
by
was
the stepmother.
Very disturbing.
Mm-hmm.
That's one way to parent. Just lock your child up in a wardrobe and make them cry.
Yeah. She did it for like a second, and then she opened it, and then proceeded to close it again and leave the room, which was like, it just added more terror for me, where I was like, okay, maybe she like freaked out for a second and like had a bout, but no, she was like, no, this is what I meant to do.
Yeah. I was like, oh, she had a change of heart, and then it's like, oh, never mind.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was pretty freaky.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think something we failed to mention earlier is that with one of the first dinner scenes we've seen, the father gives the stepmother medicine to take.
Mm.
Oh yes, she's got medicine to take like every day, right?
Yes, that was key. Good catch, Pete.
Yeah, I just realized that we didn't say anything because might explain why her behavior is so different, because it's just like she's either like real chipper or really
or like really not,
just not a friendly person.
Yeah, and even when she's like chipper, I almost feel like it's like mocking one of the sisters when she's talking to it. Like she's like all happy, but it almost seems like it's annoying long-haired or short-haired sister.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
Mm-hmm. Well, then we got the birds dead, and the stepmother finds also the photos that we talked about earlier, and this time the long-haired sister has like scribbled out or ripped off the face of the stepmother.
Which doesn't go over too well.
She gets angry and annoyed with her, and I think she like attacks the sister, right? Does she?
Yeah,
Okay, I thought she did.
they like
Yes.
fight a little bit before she shoves her into the wardrobe, because like she like drags her out of bed, I think, and like is dragging her across the floor, and then she grabs the lamp, and the lamp falls. You know, it's not a pretty sight.
No, not at all. Which then I think immediately like cuts to kind of like really the climax of the movie where we start the scene where there's like a bloody bag being dragged downstairs.
You're jumping quite ahead, I would say.
Is that quite ahead?
You're maybe not. I guess would be the next big plot point. But I
Because
feel
that scene goes on for like 25 minutes, I feel like.
Yeah, that is a long scene. Maybe you're right.
Yeah.
I just remember them like being so far apart.
Yeah. I'm trying to see.
So who do we see dragging the bloody bag?
Real quick before we start, there is one dialogue
it.
that. Hello?
It was a stepmom, right?
Was it supposed to be the stepmom?
You were like cutting in and out.
Matt, did you hear me at all? I was saying that I was asking who we saw drag the bloody bag, which I assume had a corpse in it, and then it was a stepmom.
That's who we
right?
first see
And
dragging it. Is
confirmed
the stepmom.
that it was.
And I was gonna say right before, there's one line of dialogue before this scene starts, after long-haired sister complains to the father that the stepmother attacked her, and she starts saying stuff about how she attacked me and she attacked short-haired sister, and the dad goes, he's really being kind of aloof with his answers, and then finally goes, short-haired sister is dead, like she's dead. Stop saying her name. She's dead, and
that's when everything is like, oh shit, in this movie.
Because like here's how stuff gets getting pieced together, is that because they bring up the wardrobe one time before this point, and then the father said never to bring up the wardrobe. So you're starting to piece some things together, and I don't know, at that point it kind of made me think that like, oh man, did this like stepmom like abuse the younger sister without anyone realizing it and put her in the wardrobe? That's kind of where my thought process was going at this time. I don't know if you guys felt that way at all.
This was my second time viewing it, so I kind of knew where it was going, but maybe initially when I saw it.
Yeah, it's true. And with that knowledge to her, it seems like she doesn't want to believe it, because after that point, she's still like trying to find the sister, and then they boarded up the room, like they nailed it shut. Is that what happened? Why she couldn't get in?
I believe so, like the wardrobe room.
Yeah, which I thought was the sister's bedroom.
I think it
Short-hair
is.
sister's bedroom.
Oh, okay.
I'm almost positive it is, actually.
Yeah, because that's where, if we're going back, where the door opens, we see the creepy hand, and we missed actually a ghost scene where the ghost attacks short-hair sister, and we see hands.
Oh.
Like come down
the
dress, and then it makes her bleed, and then the next morning she has her period, which was really bizarre.
That's the same scene with the woman with the crooked neck, though. Yeah, but that is
true.
Missed point. Yeah. They all three have their period at the same time after that ghost appears and the hand comes out.
Yeah, it's unpleasant.
Yeah.
So after the father says, "Oh, short hair sister is dead," you're starting, as Pete said, you can kind of start piecing some things together. And I'm like, oh, okay, this has something to do with why long-haired sister was in the mental institution.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And immediately, I guess, following that is when the shit hits the fan. I think that's the industry term for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
That's the bloody sack sequence of we see the stepmother dragging a white, looks like almost like a pillowcase sack with blood just drenched over it. Right, it looks like there's a body is in it. I'm just saying, I guess it's a sack, but I don't know what type of sack. It's a big white sack with blood all over it.
To be a laundry bag.
That's true. That's true. I'll try to, and stop me if I'm missing anything, succinctly wrap up that climactic scene. It looks like the stepmother has this bloody sack. Long-haired sister sees it, believing that to be possibly her sister in there, short-haired sister, and tries to confront her. And there's a I don't know, a scruff between them. They're kind of fighting it out, and
yes.
Long-haired sister hits her head on something and falls unconscious on the ground for a second. And that's when stepmother grabs like a garden statue.
Yes.
And is like coming over to long-haired sister, and she gives this little monologue, and I wish I would have written it down, but it kind of sums up like, the themes or the tension of this movie is like things kind of sit with you like forever. Like you think the terror is what you're seeing now, like me about to attack you, but really what sits with you is like the ghost that haunts you of what you did. And it's sort of that sort of a monologue.
Yeah.
Before
she says, I tell you, you're gonna regret this, I think is what she says.
I think that's during the flashback.
Yeah, she does definitely say that.
No, she says
okay,
too.
So it's like a foreshadow, non-foreshadow. Yeah. Okay. Then, yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah, and then the dad walks in. We hear the statue break.
Just when she's like holding,
Yeah. We get some answers, I guess, after that.
Yeah, just a whole slew of like montage, and it's like, look at all the shit that happened, and it's like, okay, here's the real story that's happening. Mm-hmm. Who wants to take that? Because I'm still a little confused even after reading a Wikipedia page. I'm
actually like 90% sure I know what happened.
Okay. You sound like you're ready to take it away, because I'm not the girl who knows.
I kind of really like this movie. But I guess I'll just kind of try to plow through it, plot lines to the end, and kind of unravel it to you guys as well with some explanation. But the dad walks in, and we hear the garden statue smash. Camera like swivels around a hallway to show long-haired sister on the ground. Fine, though, not attacked, with the garden statue smashed, no stepmother. And so the father goes to console her, gives her medicine, sits her down, and then this montage of the stepmother comes in the room, and then the camera pans to where this long-haired sister was sitting. It's also the stepmother, the same actress, sitting where she was. Then we swivel back, and it's the stepmother again. Correct? It's that same actress?
Yeah, that really confused me.
Okay. Well, I think what that's trying to reveal, because what the dad does next is take long-haired sister to the mental institution. So the first scene in the movie could have been actually after this scene, because she goes to the mental institution. But for the sake of chronological order, it's the second time she's going back to the mental institution. And I think what that's trying to tell us is the camera swiveling from her to the stepmother to like the worried stepmother look, like that we see. Like we've never seen the stepmother have that worried look before. I feel like we're like it's always been like mockery or I'm mad at you, and it's like kind of really a concerned look for long-haired sister when we see it. And I think it's the realization of our main character, long-haired sister. She has sort of a personality disorder, dissociative personality disorder. That's why she's in the institution. From the trauma, she can't really have a concrete reality because of what happened. And the younger sister is dead. And up until this point, the stepmother was never in the house. The real stepmother was never in the house. And it was her projecting the stepmother there, because if you go back, the dad never addresses the stepmother. It's
or
always
the sister.
Yeah, or the sister. It's always talking to long-haired sister, and the long-haired sister is projecting those personalities outward, and she's sometimes acting as the stepmother or acting as her sister. That's why that in that dinner room scene with the aunt and uncle, they're like, I don't remember that story, is because it doesn't really exist. It's the daughter, long-haired sister, just coming up with an idea of what she thinks the stepmother would say. But the stepmother was never really there. So when he gives the stepmother the medicine, it's actually long-haired sister taking the medicine. But her projecting herself as the stepmother.
Okay.
So until this point, the stepmother was never in the house, the actual stepmother, but she does exist. Does that make sense up to this point?
So far.
Yes.
Okay. And the younger sister is dead. She wasn't in the house, but we kind of knew that based on the dad said that. So I think then she goes to the mental institution, and we get a montage flashback of the traumatic
she's there,
the traumatic event. And what I took, and correct me if I'm wrong, whenever or if I forget something, but it's a flashback to the house, and the father is with the stepmother at this point. I don't know if they're engaged or anything, but they're somehow together. And the mother's still alive, but she's sick. And what happens at the house is the mother, whether she's, depressed from what her husband's doing or her illness, but she takes her own life. She hangs herself in the wardrobe, correct? In the wardrobe in her daughter's room. So that's... Yes. Then short-haired sister comes in and finds her mother hung in her wardrobe, and when she tries to help her get free, the wardrobe falls on her and kind of is crushing her, and she's not dead yet, but she's crushed. And the stepmother hears the cries and then knows it's her trapped, the short-haired sister, but then long-haired sister starts calling for her or yelling at her. Is that what happened? And she shuts the door, and instead of the long-haired sister has upset the stepmother so much that she's turned severely evil and says, "You'll regret this," that they're not going into the room. And the younger sister walks out of the house away from her mother dead in the closet, and then the younger sister eventually dies from being crushed under the wardrobe. So the stepmother knew that short-haired sister was stuck under that wardrobe and going to die. And the mother was there too. Didn't really stop it.
So, I got that from the Wikipedia page. Did not pick up on that at all in real time.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know what's going on. But here's my question for you. So, long-haired sister was completely unaware of that happening. How would she know to project this crazy personality into the stepmother in the beginning of the film, which takes place after that flashback? How would she know to do that if she didn't know that she was responsible? Just didn't help in any way. she's not solely responsible, but she did aid in it because she didn't help.
Well, I think at that point in the movie she does, because the flashback happened. That's the traumatic event. So up until that point, long-haired sister is living her life with her mother's in the house still. She's sick, but her mother's there and her dad's there, and that's I don't think the stepmother at that point, as well. I think it's just someone her father might be seeing. So then she probably comes back to the house after her walk, because she just walked out of the house. She probably comes back, and her dad, and is like, your mother and your sister are dead. And she goes back in her mind, like, what happened? And they find, well, the mother's dead in the wardrobe, and your sister was crushed under it. And she was right outside that room. And the mother is like, you'll regret this moment. Or whatever. And you got to put that together and be like, well, I don't know for sure,
So she connected
but
pieces.
that's really suspicious that all of that happened. And why did you say that to me at my sister's door? And moments later, she's dead. She might not know she was dead at that time, but she was dead then shortly after, and the stepmother said that. So then she creates this personality, even if she wasn't, well, she is evil, that's what she did, but she creates an even more evil personality based on what she thinks this woman is.
Do you think she's actually the stepmother at all? Because all that part of her being the stepmother is her projecting the personality, because in the flashback she is the nurse who just gets annoyed with the sister and just doesn't want to help. So at that point we just know she's the nurse. So does she ever become the stepmother? Is it just an affair?
I think it... Oh, go ahead.
And then no, that's all. That's basically what I got.
I think you're probably right, actually. I think we say stepmother because that's what we're kind of told by our narrator, which is the long-haired sister. But I don't think...
Who's unreliable. She's an unreliable narrator.
Yeah, so I think it's probably just an affair. And the mother knew, and the mother got depressed, and she then projected her as an evil stepmother, as like a grim fairy tale sort of thing.
Yeah.
Good point.
I came up with it just now.
That's good. Well, then to wrap up the rest of the movie is, we know there's two ghosts in the house now, the mother and short-haired sister. And as long-haired sister's in the mental institution, she hears a whistling, right? And the stepmother, quotes, is at the house, and she goes to the wardrobe, and we see the ghost, right, of short-haired sister, and we hear a scream, a smile from long-haired sister. Basically, short-haired sister's got a revenge on the woman who basically led to her death, and long-haired sister is at peace.
Yeah, I didn't catch that in my viewing. I totally missed that scene.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So maybe I was really distracted by the Kardashians at the time.
It's probably what
but
happened.
I read it in Wikipedia and I was like, I don't remember seeing that at all.
And the whistling in the scene is very significant because
I remember the whistling. I do remember that, but I don't remember her dying.
Mm-hmm.
I think I remember her being attacked. Not dying.
We don't see her dying. I guess I'm projecting that. Yeah,
implied.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Something happened to her, and the younger sister did it. Yeah.
Why wouldn't you get rid of the wardrobe if it killed 2 people in your family?
That's a great question.
So I have a wardrobe right here. I can show it to you if you guys want. But if 2 people in my family died because of it, I would chop that shit with an axe.
Get rid of it.
I don't know.
And probably burn it. You know.
I guess.
Or throw it in the garbage. I don't fucking know. Have someone haul it away. Put some bad voodoo in fucking Goodwill or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know. I guess it just adds to the story.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, of course.
Yeah, but
it adds
in
to the
reality,
story.
people might get rid of that, or they might cling on to it as like a, that's
They can't let go.
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of like
If
where
it
the
was,
ghosts come from.
if it was the mother's I guess if the sister also died from it, I guess he wanted to hold on to it because it belonged to the younger sister. I guess I can kind of see that.
Yeah. Okay. That's
like you wouldn't take out her clothes or anything.
Mm-hmm. You leave it there. Yeah, I get that. Well, that's the plot, everybody, to A Tale of Two Sisters, and I implore you to check it out to understand some of the images we talked about. But for the sake of time, I was going to talk about some other horror significance aspects, but I could write a blog more talking about what I wanted to say. But two things that jump out about the Korean horror, and especially this, is the ghost. It's a female ghost, which typically happens in like Japanese horror and Korean horror. And I'll do a whole blog post about why you see more female ghosts in horror movies and rarely male ghosts. I have some theory on that and why it tends to happen more often and why it seems creepier than a male ghost. And usually it's seen as like, at least gothic horror, which this kind of is the haunted house, that the woman lived in these oppressive roles in their life, or they have this nurturing quality to them that in the afterlife they are either seeking revenge or empowering themselves over whatever happened to them in their previous life, and are trying to, I don't know, combat what they had in their real life, which is a common thread. But I'll leave a lot more of that to the podcast. But it's always usually the blog. But a short horror significance with the ghost is, for film at least, do you guys notice a lot of the mirrors that were going on here, or mirror images, the duels going on?
No, that's interesting. I didn't.
It's usually
Give me an example.
Sure, there's a really good one, and it's towards the beginning. You see the stepmother. She is putting on makeup, and she's looking in one mirror to put it on, and there's a second mirror to her left, kind of like mirroring exactly what she's doing. And there's the medicine cabinet mirror that shows the short-haired sister. And it's kind of just a staple of a ghost type movie, because it kind of acts as like a portal. There's another realm going on here. A window, like Alice Through the Looking Glass, has that same element. You go through a mirror, there's something else behind it. And The Shining does that a lot. There's so many mirrors in The Shining, which is essentially a ghost haunted house type film. Yeah, I mean, that's essentially it. There's some presence there. And the mirror images. There's some foreshadowing of elements like cookie crumbs you could have picked up at the beginning to kind of tell you where this movie was going. Of like, I think it was when the stepmother puts down a set of books, folded clothes on the bed. There's like an exact replica of the folded clothes on the bed. And when long-haired sister puts her diary and her books down by the nightstand, there's an equal set of exactly the same books next to it. So it's just...
Wow.
Didn't catch that.
I only picked up on it this time going through, but it's just kind of picking up of like, well, why? That's kind of weird. Why is there a double of going on there?
One thing I noticed I thought was weird, totally unrelated and not anyway significant, is that when long-haired sister was going through the chest trying to find her mother's things, is that in a pair of shoes there were pencils in there. So I thought that was really weird.
No, that is weird.
Just using... Yeah, I didn't get that at all.
Yeah, I mean... I don't know. That's a good point. That's a signifier of ghosts, I think. Pencils in a shoebox.
Dead giveaway.
Because I was like, I've never seen that before.
Interesting. I didn't see that.
I thought it was so weird. I was like, who does that?
Okay.
I mean, I guess if you're not using those shoes anymore, it could be a pencil case. Yeah. I don't know.
It could just be like a junk chest drawer, and there were shoes in it. But there was also pencil, stationery, all the above.
Yeah, just
but
practical.
They were also perfectly placed into the shoe.
I don't know then. It's a good holder.
I'm out of ideas.
Okay. Well, to wrap it up, before we go to Defend or Destroy, we talked about the remake, but do you guys know the box office or budget for this film?
Not at all.
No idea.
No?
No.
No. I'm gonna guess.
Are you going to go in dollars or Korean currency?
I'm gonna go in dollars.
All right, fine.
I couldn't tell you what the Korean currency is.
Well, let me do the exchange rate then, Pete. No, I'm just kidding. I have the American dollars.
What is it called? What is a Korean dollar called?
Korean dollar is... I don't know. To be honest. A won?
I've literally...
W-O-N. A won. Yeah.
I've never heard of that. I guess I've never been to Korea, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah. But I do have the number in American US dollars.
Let's hear it.
Yeah.
I'm guessing.
Oh. Okay, guess first.
That it was 5 million. Oh, did you want to go?
I have zero ideas on what to guess, so fire away.
5 million
budget.
35 million.
Okay, that's a good guess, Lindsay. Do you want to ballpark it? Do you want to?
I don't want to.
Price is Right.
I don't want to embarrass myself, so no.
Okay, fair enough. Well, Pete, you were kind of close to the budget. It was 3.7 million. So you're fairly close. As for the box office, not so close. It was $1 million. It was this movie was a flop.
It was a flop.
It has
really?
Yeah, it has critical success. I mean, people seemed critically to like it, but it was a flop. People did not go see this movie. Wait. But actually, I have a note on that, which is maybe counterintuitive to the flop. Oh,
I feel like.
Oh, sorry.
No, I was gonna say I feel like I think it has like a strong cult following, which has probably led me to believe it was a financial success.
Well, that's true. It is a flop, but I found this information when it was originally released. It became the highest-grossing Korean horror film of all time. And it was the first one to be screened in American theaters.
So, do we just consider that a flop over here? Because I don't know.
Guess, yeah. Usually, I just consider
Or just the numbers are misreported, maybe.
I don't know. But, I mean, maybe not. Maybe it's a flop still because you base it on the budget, but it could still be the highest grossing Korean horror film.
Okay.
It made
I'll buy that.
$1 million, so that could have just been the highest grossing Korean horror film.
I was not expecting you to say that.
Yeah, it was shocking to me as well. All right. Well, I think it's time for Defend or Destroy to wrap it up. I mean, I'll start, but I think everybody knows my answer. Defend. I like this movie a lot. I've been pushing for it since the beginning of this podcast. I've kind of.
It has been a long time.
I think it's. I think it's subtle, but also it builds on a good story. Filming wise, I think they use the camera well, as I said about the dualities with the mirrors and leading up to what's going to happen. It's just a good ghost story about haunting and remorse, and I prefer the ones that aren't so much blood and guts, that are kind of like this terror build up sort of suspense. I liked Eyes Without a Face, the French film. That's kind of my ballpark, so I defend it, as I'm sure you all knew. Yeah.
I'm shocked.
Well, I'm also going to defend it. As we kind of already covered, this film is definitely pretty mystifying by the time you reach the end. I think watching it a second time, it'll make a lot more sense. I'm not saying I did that, just that it would probably help a lot. And so with that, the story is very chilling and very haunting, and the house, it's not really about the house like we'd said, but it's got this very sinister feel because of everything that's happened in there. And definitely thought everybody had very good performances. I thought it was very like well shown, not told, and that's not to say, like I said, I wasn't confused because I totally was, but that's what Wikipedia is for. So it's got that slow burn element to it, which works as a good tool in building suspense for this particular movie, and I really enjoyed it. So 2 thumbs up all the way around.
Ooh, ooh, ooh. Yeah. All right, Pete. Are we gonna have a unanimous defend?
I abstain. No, I'm kidding. Wouldn't that be crazy? Yeah, I mean, obviously, not obviously. I feel like I have to go with defend.
Yeah.
Even though I was very confused and distracted throughout the movie, that's because I didn't watch it on TV. If I watched it on TV, I would have been a lot less distracted. Stop dancing. You're distracted. You're distracting me from my speech at the podcast. Yeah, I mean, I could tell. I mean, I'm from other Korean horror movies I've seen. I'm like been a big fan of them, and I like how the style of each one is, and they're usually pretty stylistic and tell like a really good story. And like, even though this kind of had like certain instances were really like the spinning cameras and like the reveals and the montages was kind of reminiscent of the time of the 2000s, which made it a little corny. It still told a really creepy story in the end, and I like that I'm glad that other people were as equally confused as I was. Yeah. I was just blaming it on my distraction, but it was just on top of that distraction. It was, oh, you have to figure out what the hell is going on.
Yeah.
So that made sense why I was so confused. And I agree with Lindsay that I feel like a second viewing is probably definitely necessary, honestly, for you just to pick up on everything and just to get the full effect of the movie. And like, even like, you had some, we were coming at the like 15 minutes ago, we're having a conversation about like stuff that we didn't think about in the movie of just watching. We're kind of piecing everything together.
Yeah, and to the point of like a second viewing might help. For instance, the first time, once you get the flashback of like how the mother and the sister died, it kind of helps bring some clarity to what happened. But through the second viewing, it really helped me piece together like the personality disorder thing, and like when the stepmother was in the house, and like when events really occurred, because I could watch for that, because I was kind of, I knew kind of what was going to happen. So that helped the first second viewing, the whole personality disorder part. Yeah. Okay, well, that is A Tale of Two Sisters. Get a free trial of Shudder plug on the podcast, and watch the film, or contact me. I got the DVD. I'll send it out to you.
Mail it in.
Yeah. In the meantime, get on the Facebook and the Twitter and our website. Let us know what you're thinking. What do you want us to watch? What do you want us to do? We adhere to you. I mean, the listeners, our loyal listeners. And yeah, that's it. Just stay ready for my blogs about shit. I don't know. Until next time, everybody. I'm Matt Johnson. I'll remain in those shadows.